thanks to Alex for such a great introduction. It should really sound that I know what I do because of all the accolades and achievements. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for your hospitality yesterday. Thanks for having me. My first time in Edinburgh. I've waited for 38 years to come and see your town and city. It's beautiful. But today, as you know, as you've heard, I'm here to talk about the topic of transparency. And transparency is quite a sort of wide, broad subject. I mean, it could mean lots of things. In my case, I would like to talk to transparency about understanding, about the meaning, about the inquiry, like what transparency is like what I see in the middle of the creative process, what's there and how we go about it and how we can sort of look into it and create better clarity and better work. As you've heard, my name and from my accent, I don't come from these parts. I was born in Czech Republic. And I lived for the last 16 years. I live down south and I absolutely love it. I live in a small place called Isha, which I'm sure no one really heard of it. We make it to the news, not for the right reasons. That actually happened 2 days ago. There was lots of police outside my studio. And I'm like, and then the police officer comes in and I'm just like, so what's happening? It's like, you will hear. And when I Googled it, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, really? As you can see, the spelling seems quite familiar. You might think we have to do something with MC Escher. Nothing, absolutely nothing. We have one letter out. This is my studio. And on the topic of transparency, I have to admit that that's a proper lie. That studio is never tidy. Anyone who runs a creative business, it's messy. It's always messy. There's odd socks, cups, everything. But because I need a nice, pretty picture for my book, I tidied up. I retouched. I put a window from another. Obviously, the photo was taken in winter. I retouched the window from summer, obviously, because that's what you do. So I mean, pretty much every photo, everything you see is a lie. And as you can see, bottom left there. Is my trusted security guard, my studio buddy. And as much as I love sitting in front of my desk and in front of my computer and my desk, I really enjoy taking time out and kind of going away from the desk and kind of finding clarity and finding time to think and breathe calmly, shall I say. As anyone who's got a dog and a phone, what do? You take photos of your dog. And before you get a pet, you're thinking, who are the people who post pictures of dogs, cats, and babies to Instagram? Turns out it's me. But as you can see, my dog is a criminal. It's hard not to take photos. It's not hard to have fun. And sometimes I give him little tribute videos. Yep. I do design for a living, but to clear up any confusion, obviously, his name is Hendrix, named after the great Jimi Hendrix, not Hendrix the Gin or Christina Hendricks. Let's be clear about that one. I also became a dad almost 7 months ago. I became a dad, and I love it. And this is my baby girl, Harper Lux. And as a obviously pushy parent, obviously already, I take her to see culture, and obviously I wanted to follow my footsteps. So I took her to the London Design Festival. And she wants you to know that the brochure tasted real good. You know? As you can tell, I'm going for the Dad of the Year award. I'll make sure that my baby's dressed in the proper clothes, not baby penguins or whatever. I'll tell her about rock and roll. Obviously, as you can tell, our selfie game is on point, to speak like the millennial. But what I'm here to talk about is more than jokes, really. I'm very much a curious person. Some of you I've spoken to already today. I just wanted to know what would you get a kick out of and what was your answer to the questions. Because I feel what drives my decisions in my life is based by these three elements: influence, inspiration, and information. I'm inspired by color, not just by the feeling, but by its meaning, by the perception, by the scientific reasons. Color really drives my decisions. This is my Disneyland. The color wheel is just amazing. I can stare at it for hours and just kind of get lots of ideas. I bought the same pair of trainers in lots of different colors and I just choose them how I feel every morning. And today's a different, but today might be an exception. But I wear odd socks. I'm the happiest wearing odd socks. And what do you do with odd socks? You post them to Instagram. I'm influenced by experience, by process. I'm very much on Instagram studying pictures of vegan food and surfboards and process, and I really want to know how people make stuff. Vegan food, really, that gives me a lot of ideas, and I kind of just want to know how people make stuff and why they do it. I've realized that with the sharing economy what we've got now, it's so easy to stumble across something really exciting and informative. So I take interest. I'm literally scratching the surface of neuroscience, behavioral economics, biology. I wanted to know how we are hardwired, what makes us us, and why we make the decisions that we make. So with that, as a person of an inquiry mind, I became a designer at kind of mid-20s, sort of like at the age of 22, 23. And I wasn't always a designer before. I kind of didn't have the idea of waking up on my 4th birthday and with a pencil in my hand and saying, "Mother, I'll be an illustrator for the rest of my life." I wish I was that maybe, but instead I wanted to be an astronaut. I woke up on the 4th birthday and felt like, "Mother, I'll fly to the moon." She's like, "Yeah, you're 4 years old, you can't do that." So became an ice hockey player. Where I'm from, in Czech Republic, ice hockey is more popular than football. So became an ice hockey player. Then in my early teenage years, I was a musician. I started studying a band. I was very much inspired. So I was inspired by sort of extreme hard rock and metal music. Then I was a DJ because I didn't like my bandmates, so I started on my own. When it came to higher education, I thought maybe economics is something I want to do, and business management, as you do. Best design background ever. And before the blog started, I wrote design reviews. I went to a gig and lots of gigs under influence and wrote reviews, and people published them, which was really nice. But I was pretty much lost for most of my time until sort of 22, 23. So I think the week before I stumbled into an ad on becoming sort of junior designer, I almost got a job as a chef. I just thought, what do I want to do? I was really lost. But luckily I stumbled into this something called graphic design, and it was really my calling. Everything I did I was always okay. I was never a great ice hockey player. I was never a great musician. I was never a great DJ, because if I did, maybe I would not be talking here about design. That was just all right. And I just realized that I have to be inquisitive about the process. So my design career started with an answering of an ad for a t-shirt printing company. It was just like a local print shop, and that's kind of the type of work we were doing. And I was told on day 1 or day 2 that I shouldn't be making things look pretty because people haven't paid enough money for it. I knew this was not going to last. So from that day, I was very much excited about what I wanted to do. I knew that graphic design was something I really wanted to explore more. And I knew that graphic design was fun until the client came through the door. That means, how is it? There's, that feeling when you got ideas and people tell you, no, that's how you do it. And I always wanted to know from that point onwards, how can I strive and how can I sort of drive the process and be collaboratively working with my clients? As Alex said, my company is called Brand New. I still haven't decided, even after 10 years of working, if it's my freelance name or my studio. It's just something because it's easier to pronounce than my real name, because people think with name of like Radim, people think I'm Indian or some sort of, it's complicated. What I do, as a person of inquiry mind, I just have a go at whatever comes my way. So I work across art direction, design, branding, illustration, web design, apps, events, interior design. I'm a designer. I think Massimo Vignelli said, like, if you can design one thing, you can design everything. And I kind of go by that feeling a bit because I just don't feel there's any borders or any walls that I should set for myself. And today, as we're talking on the topic of transparency, this is the moment. Like, this is me. Well, clearly not. But we all know that feeling when you go backseat drivers telling us, like, okay, you should do this and you should do that, and you find yourself, no, it definitely shouldn't be that way. So every new project starts with a blank piece of paper. Everything starts afresh. Everything is kind of tailor-made. And what I want to talk about today is that bit in the middle, because even if you don't inquire what you do, you can always get from A to B or A to Z. You can always finalize it. But when you look into the process, that's the part that kind of helps you to create work which is created for the soul, just created for the people. It's a collaborative task. So in that little triangle, excuse me, I'll call it transparency A to Z. And the process between the blank piece of paper and the final result is, it's 5 steps. It's the search, direction, skills and knowledge, meaning, and making ideas happen. And I'll elaborate. So every new project starts with asking questions. We want to really find out what we're actually creating. You kind of almost find yourself like creating a roadmap for yourself. I call it the art of asking questions because Nobody asks, basically nobody really knows fully what they're creating or what they're creating for. So when client comes to me and says, this is what we want, I really go and thoroughly try to research what they actually need, because we've got different needs, what we actually think what we want. Clients approach creativity, and us, well, even ourselves, we approach creativity as like an open buffet. Because because it's so easy, everything could be any color, any shape, any size, with a click of a button. I mean, we live in a fantastic age where you can have anything, but just because you can have everything on your plate doesn't mean it will taste good, right? It's just kind of down to us creators, like how do you sort of pick up the Michelin star meal, just out of very basic simplicity. I believe when you start looking for reasons, the problem they'll be trying to answer is answering with sort of creating an engine, something that will drive the results somewhere forward, because coating on top of it, it's going to be scratched, can be changed, can be recolored. Coating is the style, engine is the idea that drives things forward. And I love this quote by Henry Ford when he described like what people would really want. Before people got cars, they didn't really want cars because they didn't know cars existed. And I think that's when it comes to the creative task, like people don't always know what they really want. And I think it's just down to us to kind of work out what is the next thing to help people to achieve what they really want to achieve. So when you start inquiring what you want to do, then you start looking in direction, mostly where you can take a project. And I believe the world gets a lot of average stuff, gets some good stuff, and really great work is quite sparse and really shines through because for the very right reason. And I believe when you try to sort of answer in the call of the brief, there's lots of easy ideas that come to you as a first idea, and you can go, okay, this is what it is because it's a natural solution. Whereas I believe it's the opposite. I always try to go in the opposite direction, try to sort of avoid cliches and try to do things that will be a lot more inspiring, because that's the difference between good, bad, and greatest, I would say. And it's almost like when you think of the term called soundtrack dissonance, which is what it means is when you've got, for example, a fighting scene in Fast and Furious 99 or whatever, the latest movie, and Tarantino's fighting scene, and the Fast and Furious would have some sort of heavy metal track in the fighting scene. Tarantino would have a Johnny Cash. It's the Johnny Cash one that you will actually remember, because it's the opposite. It's just literally it's answering the same question with a different way, but it makes you kind of take notice because it just creates a different feeling. And that's what I always strive to do with my work. I've got 3 examples of the opposite. How it's not always the easiest solution. It's not always the solution that's liked. And the example on the left is lasagna. It was created by a chef in Italy who was obviously cooking for Italians, asking himself, what's the best bit of lasagna? And as a true Italian, he said, it's the burnt bit on top. Everyone fights for it. So he created a dish, which is just the burnt bit on top. Obviously, cooking for Italians, of course, they hated him. They were just like, why are you doing? Where's the rest of lasagna? It wasn't 4 years later till they actually really liked it and became a Michelin star meal. London 2012, I think it's just one of the best pieces of graphic design we'll see in our lifetime. As hated as it was, people would suggest that's just a terrible logo, put a Big Ben in, ribbon, and 2012. That's just so easy, right? So I think what they created was amazing. And the DS, it's back of a car, the Citroën DS. And they could easily just written DS on it. I'm not sure if it was hated, but I think it's just a fantastic piece of design. Again, they didn't go for something preconceived. They didn't go for a trend style of fashion. It's so easy to buy into a mindset that's sort of like a common mindset. Because there's so much information, so much design, and so much style out there that you can sort of buy into it to get a quick appreciation from the industry. But I believe we should be creating our own worlds. We should be kind of creating our own thing and sticking with it, because that's how we will get satisfaction from what we do. I've got a picture here of a guy called Magnus Nilsson who runs an amazing restaurant in Sweden in the middle of nowhere, and it's one of the best 50 restaurants in the world. When they did a documentary about a guy, they said, they were kind of like trying to question, why is he popular, why is he successful? And they said Magnus never followed cookbooks, he always created his own recipes. And I think that's kind of sums it up, like whatever we do, fuck the cookbooks, let's do our own thing. So we get ideas, we get direction, and then it's just like, how do we make stuff? And as a freelancer, I believe that we should be like a multifaceted all-rounders. Even though mostly we've got agencies and you've got one guy for every skill, or one person for every skill, one girl. As a freelancer, I need to be multi-skilled. I need to be kind of like a black belt ninja because it's kind of, you have to be ready for things. And I just kind of answer any question, have an understanding of what we do. It doesn't seem like a ninja, but he, for those who follow football, Zlatan Ibrahimovic scores, I would believe, one of the most amazing goals ever. The reason why he scores them is not just because he's a footballer, but because he's a black belt in Taekwondo. You know, you don't see Wayne Rooney scoring the same goals, you don't see other people scoring the same thing, because he is very much different. And I like what it is, he brings something different to the skill set that other people haven't got, and that makes him different, that makes him famous, successful. You know, this guy, you know, scientist, just kind of, again, reformatting of what is the common perception of the skill. And this is my view. I see world from a design perspective, but I need to, I'm not calling myself jack of all trades and master of absolutely none, but it's the understanding, it's just a little bit, because when you think of it, like most of these tasks are just using a computer in a different way. It's just the same software, just having a different go. And that all makes a point of difference, like how we can create work that's better. I included an example. Hello, Donald. I've worked with Donald on a piece for big data, and that kind of symbolizes the understanding of what's around us. Like in a time where you need real sort of black belt skills, you also need a knowledge. Obviously, we need to be the mind, sort of the game readers of what's possible, because now in times of big data, analytics, web tracking, live, everything, you know, we know really quickly if our idea is good or not. Obviously, it's just a question of understanding if what we create actually fits with people, if it actually creates the connection. And I just believe like that's what it is, and that kind of goes back to the understanding of science and kind of understanding how we are hardwired, because we are creating work for other people, not for ourselves. And to have the understanding of what we're creating it for will always help to have. Then, in the world which is kind of carpet bombed with everything, I mean, I'm sure if you've signed up to one newsletter of a font's website or creative stock website, you get daily emails like, hello, this is the new typeface, hello, this is the new thing. And it's just like, we create so much stuff, and I just don't believe, I believe that not always the work that we create is created for the right reasons. And I really try to put meaning into my work. I try to create fewer pieces, but create them for the right reason and create them to stay. Because when you, for example, look how much we are bombarded with information, available content, it's just, I mean, it's incredible, but very little sticks. So this was my Spotify 2015 report. And it said I listened to 6,125 different songs. When I tried to do like the top 10, because I'm a hipster, I couldn't really remember about more than 7 tracks. Well, I was listening to 20 new songs every day, and I can only remember after the whole year, 7? So it was, and it just kind of that proves the point that obviously it's so easily available, but it doesn't necessarily stick to our minds. And we say, oh, there's too much on Twitter and there's too much on Pinterest. Well, it's us putting it out there. I mean, literally, it's just like we are the masters of unhappiness, and it's kind of like filtering out for what it is. So I just believe that. Excuse me. I just believe that sometimes I believe we should think about doing this and kind of switching off everything that we've created for the last 100 years or 20 years or 5 years. Kind of make use out of it, because just imagine how many fonts you got on your hard drive. You use 5, 10, you know, how many stock images you've got. And there's like, Shutterstock's got like 45 million images. Sorry, but about 99% of it is just okay. There's very little stuff that is good, and I think that's kind of what we should strive to create. I remember watching Alan Partridge's Scissored Isle, and I thought it was okay. Like, it was, yeah. I think in Alan Partridge, always good, but you know, was it a good standard, was it good quality? And the next day, I kept kind of sort of going back to, it was in my head, it was playing on my mind. It was like, it was actually very good. It was very good. And I go back and watched it again, and I watched it again, and I was just like, that is really good. Like the movie script they had must have been agonized over, like rewritten, changed on a set, then edited. And then I thought of Snapchat, like it's 5-second destructible content. Like how much basically are we putting the effort in the right places? Because it's the age of experience. Like, because everyone's on Snapchat, everyone wants to be on Snapchat because they don't want to be missing out. But I just feel like, do we actually divert our energy in the right places? So the importance of meaning is just like, do we create things that really create connection? Like, is it something that we can sort of hold and have some sort of more than 1 cent, sort of relationship? And this is a picture from Björk's exhibition, and as immersive as the new technology is, I can't really know. Those people don't touch anything. They're sitting in a room looking at each other, not really sure that where they are, what's going on, and you can't really hold stuff. And I think it'll be for a long time to stay, like the physical aspect of books and everything that we can hold in our hands is something that we should cherish. Because yes, there's benefits of technology, but it's something that we should really explore. This is an example of a piece I did literally in about an hour, about a year and a half ago for a magazine called Computer Arts. And I created it live, I created it like in front of an audience, and it's got imperfections. I just created it there and then, and never revisited it again in terms of sort of tweaking imperfections. But ever since, I have done lots of different things with it. I've laser etched it onto Mirror. I've done all sorts of other t-shirts and posters with it. And I just kind of wanted to explore one idea and kind of go with it and see what's there. One of my Instagram posts from ages ago, I decided to turn into 3D sculptures. Like I actually go with something and explore what's with it, and just kind of create something that stays. I can hold and touch. I can give it to people. You know, it's kind of like that sort of physical aspect, which really gives a kick. And the last part of the transparency process on what goes into it, into my creative work, is making the ideas happen. And as broad as it sounds, I believe that we are one of the most luckiest generations that have been on this planet, because we can act on our impulses. Like whenever you've got an idea, you're never too far from making it happen. You're never too far from making a note. You're never too far from just creating things. And as you've seen in my beautiful lie, this is my studio number 1. But I would call this my studio number 2, my office number 2. I try to spend more time away from the computer than I do at the computer, because of the aforementioned reasons of too much Twitter, too much emails, too much of everything. I try to kind of get away from it all and actually have time to think, to hear my own thoughts. It's kind of like the sort of clarity and the fog. You know, it's being subscribed to other people's news feeds and other people's creativity is lovely, but we can't really see what we're thinking. You know, looking at on Facebook, you're looking at other people's dinners from Indonesia. I'm like, okay. Why am I doing this? Like, I should be really doing, we only here once, and it's as lovely as it is to be connected to everyone, we should really do our own thing. So, in my office number 2, I haven't got many tools with me. As a guy, I've got a debit card, I've got keys, and a phone in my pocket. And the phone, as we all agree, is not the best phone, but it's potentially the best piece of technology we've got. It's a proper clever computer. And most of the times, and we are all guilty of it, we don't really use it for the right reasons. In 1993, just to give you an example, Mr. Bean went on a blind date. He was pretty much kind of called out to be a loser because he took pictures of his food. That's what we all do, right? We all take pictures of our dinners. They're irresistible. It's great. But I kind of feel like, okay, this is the entertainment. What can we do with our phones, which is much better? And there's literally, I think millions of apps that are on the App Store, and I think 75% of them will never get downloaded. It's like what we can do with our phones. It could be quite simple, because it's always a kind of reverse engineering of a problem. Just because there's an app, you don't really necessarily go and take the app and kind of try to find out what to do with it. It's like answering a problem, think, how can we use it? So I'm just going to run through 4 quick examples how I use my phone and it kind of led into something. The first example was being on a set. We created a set for meditation videos for a client, and the branding colors that I've created were not necessarily the same colors of the material that kind of arrived. So we sampled the colors from the set and finalized it there and then with the client. I was just like, okay, do you like it? Yes, good. When my baby girl was born, I couldn't even spend time at my desk, so I was trying to design an alphabet for a project called 36 Days of Type. Again, I never really thought I'd be doing an illustration on my phone, but you know, it's just kind of just answering the idea, answering mostly the impulse. The next project was started at Lake Bunyoni in Uganda. I went there on a trip with my friends and my girlfriend, and I was really inquisitive about the local culture, so I was just recording the voices and doing things with my phone, kind of to record a holiday. And we are all guilty of taking way too many photos on our holidays and never doing anything with it. This project turned into a fully fledged music project with a friend called Toby. I used everything on my phone to kind of throw it into it. Like literally, I just wanted to see what we can do. We made a music video out of all the elephant videos, and like it was just really fun to actually just start something and make something happen. And the last project that was kind of made on my phone or created with the use of my phone was the aforementioned book of ideas. We always think that writing a book is quite glamorous. We feel like maybe I'll get a house in Cornwall for 2 months, write a book, it'd be lovely. Yeah, I wish. So yeah, most of my book was written on the tube platform, on the trains, and everywhere that I could go. Even though I work from home, I don't freelance at agencies, I still go to meetings, I go to other places, and it's, when you've got this idea in your head and you're like, okay, I could write it down on a piece of paper or something. Whereas I downloaded the AI writer and I just literally synchronized all my notes throughout the systems. And it was lovely to kind of just to act on it and write it all down and kind of see, because by the time you think of something, it just goes. By the time you're actually ready to write it down, or by the time you're ready to do something with it, it just goes. So I found myself waking up at 5 a.m. and just making adjustments and things. And the more and more I was writing, and I'm not really a writer, I'm just designing at push, I realized I've got content for a book. So I decided to use all my skills and all my knowledge and use the direction and trying to find a point of difference, how I can actually put out a book which is different. What's the opposite of the regular sort of design guide? What's the reason for it to exist? What's the inquiry? Like, I literally wanted to kind of, like, everything in the process this book is the result of it. And it was fun to put it out, because I decided to self-publish it because I'm a control freak. So I wanted to be in charge of it all. And I wanted to also prove that it's okay to take on the big publishers, and it's possible to get your book to #1 on Amazon, because it's us who put it out there. Just because it's controlled by a publisher, it can lead to a different destiny. And I've been blown away by the response to it, because I just wrote a book, and in the same way, like musicians say, like, we just wrote an album for ourselves. Like, yeah, all right, okay. I did kind of write the book as my sort of like the book of prayers. Like the reason why religious people pray 3 times a day is just so they don't forget what they believe in. And in the same way, the book is a sort of a journal of mistakes, of observations and things that we sometimes, even though we do the same thing over and over again, we forget how to make it right sometimes. It's just we need to remind ourselves how we can do the same thing over and over without making the same mistakes, and kind of concentrating on making things better. Yeah, this was the proof that we've achieved it. Hilarious. But what I never expected, and this is it, like, I just believed, because there was so much meaning to this book, I never really expected what would happen past the day 1 of its being published. And I really wanted to create anomaly. I wanted to create a design book that doesn't promise anything. It's just kind of, it's me. It's very much a projection of who I am and what I believe in. And to see literally the book being thrown around the world and people taking photos and making memes on Twitter and Instagram kind of proves that it was time worth spending. It was just something that really it means to me a lot. And with all that, I believe that miracles can happen on any size wave. I believe it doesn't matter how big your client is, how big your budget is, how clever your computer is. Anything's possible to do anytime. I mean, just like that day when I realized that graphic design is fun until the client comes through the door. Today, I believe design isn't fun until the client comes through the door, because I really kind of zoomed into the process and tried to work out how I can do things better, how I can achieve things, how we can make better things together, how we can actually make some difference. And I'm sure we all agree that creativity is quite a hard subject. We all want it to be quite easy. We all want it to go, just click a couple of buttons, print it out, great. But it's like, I'm going to compare it to rock climbing. The books on rock climbing are not filled with happy stories. It's blood, it's tears, it's sweat, it's a hard thing. And the happy ending is at the end. Now, if rock climbing was easy, no one would be rock climbing, because there would be no reward, there would be no challenge. And I believe that's something what we do with creativity. Like, it can't be easy, because if it was, I think we would lose an interest quite pretty quickly. So it's that inquiring about the process, like how do we go from A to Z? How do we go about our creativity is what makes us interested. When you ask yourself, why do you create? Why do you do what you do? I mean, today's question, like, what does creativity mean to you? It's like, when you got the answer, we should multiply it by 10, by 100, by a million, because that's what we should do. I mean, because if this is what we've chosen to do, we should let people know. These guys, they got on the stage every night. You don't really have a problem knowing if they're for the right reason, because they give it all. And as Lemmy said, if you want to be a rock star, be a rock star. If you want to be a designer, be a designer. Change, make a difference. Like, let's do something. Because we all agree we're on a pretty dire straits. Banksy, I mean, this photo just sums up fucking everything right now. And we live in a proper shitty times. Even though everything around is exciting, I think there's time we should stick together and really find reasons how we can change the collective future. And that is never created by an easy task, We should face a fear every day. Lots of people give me stick for this slide, saying, what fears did you face today? Today I faced the fear of public speaking, maybe. I believe nothing's impossible, because when you see other people doing stuff, you know it's possible. If they can do it, you can do this. You can all be here, you can do that stuff. And we can all choose very simple routes in our lives. We can just go straight ahead, not bump into the walls, just kind of keep it simple. And that'll be it. Whereas I believe this is the pretty much, it sums up my life. I never know what's next. And it could be quite sometimes daunting, sometimes it'd be quite sort of, we feel insecure because you never know what's next. But it also makes it interesting, because that's what gives me a kick, because why? So I believe that, unlike sports people like Usain Bolt, we don't have to wait for 4 years to run the race of our life. We can do our best work today. We can wake up every morning and kind of just aim to smash it, literally. Because, we're only here once. We can really do things that will make difference in people's lives. So I would urge you to keep learning, making, fixing and breaking. I would urge you to try to be inquisitive, because you never know what you might find. And aim for the stars and have fun. Make dog videos. And I'll close up with a quote from one of the greatest people we've had privilege to share this planet with, David Bowie. And kind of sums it up. I don't know where I'm going from here, but I promise it won't be boring.